Do you remember the first time you crashed your car? I remember it like it was yesterday. I had just bought my first vehicle, a used model that took months of saving to afford. 3 days after finalizing the purchase, a split-second distraction resulted in a rear-end collision with another car. That feeling of helplessness, of seeing something you worked so hard to obtain get damaged by a momentary mistake, is devastating. It's exactly that same feeling many men experience when a woman who showed interest suddenly pulls away. You invest time, emotion, energy, and suddenly, without any apparent warning signs, she just distances herself. This experience can be as impactful as that unexpected car crash. Just like on the road, in relationships, we also face situations completely out of our control. The truth is, no matter how much you plan, no matter how well you prepare, unforeseen events will always occur in your love journey. Just as we can't control every car on the highway, we also can't control a woman's thoughts, feelings, or actions. This is an undeniable reality we need to accept to develop healthier and more balanced relationships. What we can control, however, is how we react to these unexpected events. Just like you have options in how to handle a car crash, from panicking to approaching the situation calmly and rationally, you also have choices in how to respond when a woman pulls away. Many men react impulsively. They send desperate messages, try to force communication, or, on the other extreme, adopt a fake indifferent stance that rarely fools anyone. These instinctive reactions usually worsen the situation, turning a temporary distance into a permanent one. What I'm about to share with you are not just abstract theories or generic advice. They are principles proven by years of personal experience and careful observation of human behavior patterns. Principles that helped me turn seemingly irreversible situations into opportunities to strengthen connections. To fully understand how to handle a woman's distancing, we first need to comprehend the fundamental nature of the female mind. Imagine an iceberg. What we see above the surface, the words, gestures, and explicit behaviors, represents only a fraction of what's really happening internally. Most thoughts, emotions, and motivations remain submerged, invisible to the inattentive eye. When a woman pulls away, we are usually reacting only to that visible part of the iceberg: fewer messages, canceled dates, sudden coldness. But the true reasons for this behavior are often hidden in the depths. Unexpressed fears, unmet expectations, painful past experiences, or simply a natural process of reevaluating the connection. Acknowledging the existence of this submerged part is the first step toward developing a deeper and more empathetic understanding. It's not about trying to decipher the female mind as if it were a puzzle to be solved, but rather understanding that there is an emotional complexity beyond what is explicitly communicated. Now, let's address the practical 3-step method I developed to handle a woman's distancing. This method does not promise magical results or infallible guarantees, because, as we've established, we cannot control others' decisions. What it offers is a framework to respond consciously and strategically, preserving your dignity while simultaneously opening space for reconnection. Step 1. Admission. It sounds simple, but it's surprising how many men fail right at this first step. Admission means honestly recognizing the emotional impact that the distancing has had on you. Are you disappointed? Frustrated? Confused? Hurt? Whatever your feelings, allow yourself to acknowledge them without judgment. Many men have been conditioned to suppress their emotions, especially those perceived as signs of weakness. But denying your feelings doesn't eliminate them. It just pushes them into the subconscious, where they continue to influence your behavior in ways you might not even realize. True strength lies in the ability to face your emotions head-on without being completely dominated by them. This step is crucial because it lays the foundation for everything that follows. If you don't honestly admit what you're feeling, your subsequent actions will be built on an unstable foundation of self-deception, and healthy relationships can never flourish on a terrain of illusion. Remember, admitting the emotional impact doesn't mean you have to communicate all these feelings to the woman who pulled away. This step is primarily for your own benefit, a self-clarification that illuminates your decision-making process. Step 2. Analysis. Here, You need to temporarily emotionally disconnect from the situation and observe it with the perspective of an uninvolved third party. Imagine a close friend describing the same scenario happening to him. What perspectives would you offer? What patterns would you identify? During this step, objectively examine your behavior in the days or weeks leading up to the distancing. Was there any significant change in the dynamics of the relationship? Did you show excessive insecurity? Did you become overly available to the point of seeming like you had no life of your own? Or perhaps you were inconsistent or negligent with the connection. Equally important is to analyze her behavioral patterns. Does this distancing seem to be part of a recurring cycle? Has she shown previous signs of hesitation or ambivalence? Are there external factors, work stress, family issues, personal problems, that could be influencing her behavior? The key here is to remain impartial. It's not about assigning blame or justifying behaviors, but about understanding the situation in its entirety. This cold, calculated analysis provides an essential counterbalance to the emotional admission of the first step, allowing you to integrate both heart and mind in your decision-making process. Jack, Step 3. Action. Based on the emotional clarity from the first step and the strategic understanding from the second, it's now time to make a conscious decision on how to proceed. There are essentially 3 possible paths. The first is to reestablish contact in a way that demonstrates both self-respect and consideration for her. This isn't about bombarding her with messages or making grand emotional declarations, but rather a calculated approach that acknowledges her space while reaffirming your interest. The second path is to wait. In some situations, especially when analysis suggests that temporary external factors might be causing the distancing, the best action is paradoxically to do nothing. Giving space can be the most eloquent demonstration of understanding and respect. However, waiting doesn't mean staying in emotional limbo. Continue living your life, developing your projects, and staying open to other possibilities. The third path is definitive distancing. There are moments when objective analysis reveals toxic patterns, fundamental incompatibilities, or simply the absence of genuine reciprocal interest. In these situations, the wisest choice may be to end the cycle, preserving your emotional energy for connections with greater potential for mutual growth. Regardless of the chosen path, the essential aspect is that it is a conscious decision, not an impulsive reaction. Impulsiveness places control of the situation in the hands of external circumstances. A conscious decision returns that control to you. Delving deeper into action. Re-establishing contact with purpose. Let's delve a bit deeper into executing this third step, especially for those who choose the first path, re-establishing contact. The approach I use and recommend is what I call purposeful contact. Many men make the mistake of initiating empty communication, asking, "Are you okay?" or "How are you?" Messages that are easily ignored because they don't offer value or direction. Purposeful contact, on the other hand, has a clear objective and provides a natural opportunity for reconnection. It could be sharing something specifically relevant to her interests, a book, music, or event you know she would appreciate. Or it might be a direct invitation to a specific activity at a specific time. The clarity of purpose demonstrates confidence and eliminates the ambiguity that often permeates reconnection attempts. The language used in this communication is equally important. Avoid passive-aggressive formulations like, "You've gone silent," or "finally decided to respond." Also, steer clear of self-pity. "I missed you," or "I was waiting for your message." Instead, maintain a neutral or positive tone that doesn't carry the weight of expectations or resentment. A particularly effective technique is referencing a previously shared positive experience. "That restaurant we went to last month opened a new spot. I thought of you immediately." This approach activates positive memories without explicit emotional pressure. Now, regardless of how you choose to act, it's crucial to understand that the final outcome is largely out of your control. She may respond enthusiastically, continue to stay distant, or offer a lukewarm and ambiguous reply. This is where many men stumble. They become so fixated on obtaining a specific outcome that they lose sight of the true purpose of the process, maintaining your emotional integrity while navigating the complexities of human relationships. True success isn't about getting her back, but about handling the situation in a way that you can look back on with pride, knowing you acted in alignment with your values and with a mature understanding of relational dynamics. Pursuing reconnection versus seeking validation. This is a crucial point we need to address: the difference between pursuing reconnection and seeking validation. When your primary goal is to obtain external confirmation that you are desirable or valuable, you are seeking validation. This pursuit places your sense of worth in someone else's hands, creating a power imbalance that rarely results in healthy connections. On the other hand, when you seek reconnection from a place of internal fulfillment, recognizing the value, her presence adds to your life without depending on that value for your own sense of completeness. You lay the foundation for a potentially balanced and mutually enriching relationship. Solid self-esteem is, therefore, the indispensable foundation for successfully navigating these turbulent waters of distancing and approaching. A man who knows his own worth doesn't despair when a woman pulls away, nor does he cling excessively to any sign of interest. He maintains a stance of dignified self-confidence that, paradoxically, tends to be much more attractive than the anxiety or desperation of insecurity. Cultivating self-esteem. Cultivating this self-esteem is not an instant process, but a continuous one. It involves honoring your commitments to yourself, developing competencies you value, surrounding yourself with relationships that reflect the respect you deserve, and fundamentally, speaking to yourself with the same kindness and consideration you would offer to someone you deeply love. There are practical exercises that can strengthen this emotional muscle. One of them is what I call the mirror ritual. Every morning, look into your own eyes through the reflection and deliberately affirm 3 qualities that you genuinely admire in yourself. Not superficial characteristics, but deep virtues: your resilience, your capacity for empathy, your determination in the face of challenges. Another powerful exercise is the relationship audit. Periodically, evaluate the connections in your life and honestly ask yourself, does this relationship lift me up or bring me down? Do I leave interactions with this person feeling energized or drained? Is there genuine reciprocity or a constant imbalance? Having the courage to distance yourself from relationships that consistently undermine your well-being is an essential act of self-preservation. Returning to the specific issue of a woman distancing herself, it's important to recognize that, in some cases, this distancing might be an unconscious test. Many women, based on past experiences, develop emotional protection mechanisms. Temporarily, distancing themselves to observe your reaction can be a way to assess your emotional security and behavioral consistency. This doesn't mean you should interpret every distancing as a test, nor should you manipulate your behavior to pass these supposed tests. Authenticity is irreplaceable. However, understanding this possibility can help you maintain perspective and not automatically interpret the distance as definitive rejection. RT. Embracing patience and understanding. Emotional rhythms. Patience becomes, then, an invaluable virtue. Female emotional processes often follow rhythms different from males. While men tend to process emotions in a more linear and compartmentalized manner, many women experience a more integrative and multidimensional approach, which may require periods of distancing for internal integration and clarification. Respecting this different rhythm doesn't mean forsaking your own needs or expectations, but rather understanding that reconnection, when it occurs organically, tends to be more substantial and meaningful than one forced by pressure or emotional manipulation. There's also a cultural component we can't ignore. We live in a society that often socializes men to be pursuers and women to be selective, a legacy reinforced by millennia of social conditioning. Recognizing these patterns isn't to uncritically reinforce them, but to understand their impact on relational dynamics, offering valuable perspectives on seemingly inexplicable behaviors. However, it's crucial to avoid excessive generalizations. Every woman is a unique individual, shaped by her own singular combination of genetics, environment, life experiences, and conscious choices. The strategies I'm sharing are adaptable, principles, not rigid formulas to be applied indiscriminately. Moreover, it's essential to recognize that not every female distancing holds a deep meaning or requires meticulous analysis. Sometimes people simply follow different paths for practical or circumstantial reasons. The ability to discern when to invest emotional energy and when to simply move on is wisdom that develops with experience and self-awareness. R2. The importance of self-knowledge. Speaking of self-awareness, this is possibly the most valuable resource you can cultivate, not only to handle specific distancing, but to navigate the entire complex landscape of intimate relationships deeply. Knowing your own attachment patterns, emotional triggers, fundamental needs, and behavioral tendencies under stress provides invaluable clarity in romantic interactions. Methods such as structured therapy, mindfulness practices, consistent reflective writing, or even deep conversations with trusted friends can significantly accelerate this self-discovery process. Investing in this type of personal development not only enhances your ability to handle distancing, but elevates the quality of all your human connections. The role of nonverbal communication. A frequently overlooked but extremely relevant aspect to our discussion is the role of nonverbal communication. Studies consistently demonstrate that over 90% of human communication occurs beyond words, through tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and, in digital interactions, timing and response patterns. When a woman pulls away, many men focus exclusively on the verbal content, or the lack thereof, ignoring the multiple layers of communication that could offer valuable insights. Learning to read and interpret these subtle signals is a skill developed through conscious observation and deliberate practice. For example, a woman who responds with short but consistent messages is communicating something very different from one who sends long, elaborate replies with days in between. One who maintains superficial contact but consistently avoids opportunities for face-to-face meetings is conveying a different message from one who rarely initiates contact but shows genuine engagement when interactions occur. Training your sensitivity to these communication patterns significantly enhances your ability to navigate the complexities of modern relationships, especially in a context where much of the initial interaction happens through digital interfaces that eliminate many traditional nonverbal cues. OCDR, understanding attention competition in modern life. Another crucial factor to consider is what I call attention competition in modern life. Never in human history have we been bombarded with so many stimuli, obligations, and options. And by keen, apparent disinterest or distancing can, in many cases, reflect not a deliberate rejection, but simply the reality of an overwhelmed life competing for limited attentional resources. This contextual understanding is especially important in the early stages of a relationship, when the connection hasn't yet established its own priority space in the attentional hierarchy. Instead of automatically interpreting a lack of response or engagement as personal disinterest, consider the competitive environment in which we all operate and calibrate your expectations accordingly. How you respond to this context of attentional scarcity can significantly differentiate your positioning. A man who understands this dynamic and can offer high-quality interactions that represent a genuine refuge from daily overload rather than another obligation or demand naturally stands out in the contemporary relational landscape. Final reflections: self-mastery and emotional maturity. As we approach the conclusion of this reflection, I want to emphasize a fundamental point. How you handle female distancing reveals much more about you than about her. It reveals your emotional maturity, your internal security, your ability to integrate rationality and emotion, and fundamentally, your respect both for yourself and the other person. The principles we've discussed, honest admission of feelings, objective analysis of circumstances, and conscious action based on both, transcend the specific context of romantic relationships. They are valuable tools for any meaningful relationship in your life. Implementing these strategies requires consistent practice and patience with yourself. You won't transform response patterns established over years or decades overnight. There will be moments of relapse, of impulsive reactions that contradict everything you intellectually know to be more effective. In these occasions, self-compassion becomes as important as self-discipline. the ability to recognize the mistake, learn from it, and return to the path without excessive self-flagellation. The ultimate goal of this process is not manipulation or control, but liberation. Freedom from reactive patterns that undermine authentic connections. Freedom from dependence on external validation for your sense of worth. Freedom to experience relationships based not on need or deficiency, but on conscious choice and mutual enrichment. When you operate from this place of internal freedom, a woman's distancing, though it may still bring temporary disappointment, does not fundamentally shake your sense of identity or worth. You recognize that relationships come and go, that some connections are for a season and others for a lifetime, and that your completeness as a human being does not depend on any specific person choosing to stay. This perspective not only frees you, but also the women you relate to. When you don't burden them with the impossible responsibility of validating your existence or filling your internal voids, you create space for genuinely freely chosen connections based on authentic desire rather than neurotic need. Taking action, applying the principles. If you are currently facing a situation where a woman has distanced herself, I invite you to deliberately apply the principles I've shared. Allow yourself to feel whatever is present: disappointment, frustration, confusion, without judgment. Objectively analyze the circumstances, seeking understanding instead of assigning blame, and then consciously choose your next step from that place of integrated clarity. Remember, true power isn't in controlling others, but in governing your own response to the uncontrollable. This is the essence of emotional maturity that makes truly satisfying relationships possible. I invite you to continue this journey of self-knowledge and relational development. Subscribe to the channel to access more content that delves deeper into the principles we've discussed today. Share your experiences in the comments, your victories, challenges, and insights. And remember, every interaction, even those that seem like superficial failures, contains valuable seeds of learning for those who have the courage to cultivate them. The ongoing journey of self-discovery and relational mastery. The journey of self-knowledge and relational mastery is ongoing. The principles we've explored today are just the beginning. In future reflections, we will expand our understanding to areas such as attachment patterns, authentic communication, developing genuine intimacy, and maintaining desire in long-term relationships. True transformation occurs through the consistent application of these principles in the laboratory of everyday life. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for practice, every challenge a chance for refinement. And with each cycle of application, reflection, and adjustment, you move closer not only to more gratifying relationships, but to a deeper and more authentic relationship with yourself. It is this continuous self-discovery that forms the unshakable foundation upon which all meaningful relationships are built. When you fully know, accept, and value yourself, you become capable of offering and receiving a love that doesn't seek to complete, but to complement, not to fill voids, but to celebrate fulfillments. Until our next meeting, remember, your worth isn't tied to the choices others make about you, but to the integrity with which you navigate your own journey.